Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast today, and I'm Trevor. I'm going to be your coach and your mentor as we present here. We want to talk about niche marketing for just a minute, and specifically, what is a niche, how we go about selecting one, and how it applies to the three different things that we do here in our program, which is eBay marketing and eBay business development, a website where you sell your own stuff from a supplier, whether that be drop shipping or you carrying your own inventory, but your own website, and then also your own content style website, like a blog or otherwise. How does choosing a niche fit into this, and what is it, and how does that work? Okay, so I want to discuss all those things so that the next time you start another business or another branch of your business, that you feel really comfortable about what you're getting into and why. Okay. Okay, so there's a lot to go over, so we're just going to dive right in. I want to talk about what is a niche first. You see that question right there at the top of my screen and at the top of yours, hopefully, if you can see it okay. I asked the question, what is a niche? What's your answer, guys? Let me just underline it so you see what I'm talking about. What is a niche? This is what I want to discuss for a minute. You know, you'll hear different mentors in the program talk about it, and you'll hear about this outside of our program when people talk about, you know, what kind of a niche they're going to get involved in. What is their niche? You know, how to find a little spot in the market. Talk to me about what that is real quick for those of you guys who have been here and know a little bit about it. Yeah, it's a specific type of product, maybe. Jocelyn, you said it's a specialty product. Yeah, potentially. It's got broad and more narrow definitions. Catherine, you said something similar, a specific subject, topic, or market. Ed, that's pretty straightforward. What you want to sell? Right there, that's in layman's terms. What you want to sell? Russell, I like your definition. General topic. What you revolve your product selection or informational site around. Kirk is as simple as an idea, you say? Something you're passionate about, a specialty that you concentrate on. I'm getting a lot of that, a specific type or a specialty type. I'm gonna agree with that for the most part. I think that's definitely part of the definition. Let me show you guys the definition as it comes from Google for just a second. Okay, and I agree with most of this. This is from Wikipedia, actually. It says a niche market is the subset of the market on which a specific product is focused. Okay, so the market niche defines as the product features aimed at satisfying specific market needs, as well as the price range, production quality, demographics that it's intended to impact. It is also a small market segment. I mean, out of this definition right here, I agree with a lot of it, but this right here is what I want you to focus on. It's a segment of the market, okay? Now, we see this all the time. We see this all the time, right? There's a reason why take McDonald's, for example. What's their niche? Don't pretend like you haven't eaten at McDonald's, all of you. We all have at one point or another. I do it maybe a little more regularly now because I've got little ones that like to go. Yeah, it's McDonald's is famous for their burgers, their fast food, right? That's their niche. Now let me ask you a question. You know, why doesn't McDonald's? Why don't they get into, like, you know, they've got the American food, fast food market down pat, right? Why don't they sell Mexican food? Why don't they have like a section of their menu that's just for Mexican food? Why don't they have a section that also is for Asian food? And for that matter, why don't they open up a little spot of their store and sell groceries too, right? After all, they got lots of people coming in there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why not just sell them some groceries at the same time? And better yet, while they're at it, since they've got so many people coming in, why don't they sell them a little bit more? Not only can you get your groceries and your fast food there, but you can order your McDonald's or your Mexican food, your Asian food, and you can buy your home goods there at McDonald's, right? Why don't they do that? Right? This is a giant publicly traded company. Why don't they start getting out into all these other markets? I'm getting lots of good answers. Yeah, I like that, Russ. We can't be all things to all people. That you have to specialize, don't you? I mean, there are very few companies out there that do what a Walmart does, or even what an Amazon does, where they sell anything and everything. You can literally buy almost anything in the world you want at Amazon, right? That is the exception to the rule. Most stores don't work like that. Most stores aren't a Walmart or a Target, okay? I know out here in Utah for a while the craze was we had these little cupcake shops that it must have been a trend, very trendy. Like people were opening up these little cupcake bakeries all over the place. Those were huge for a while. There was a time back when I was in college that it seemed like every corner was opening up one of those like healthy frozen yogurt places. You guys noticed that a few years ago? That was huge out here for a while. And then you can ask yourself the question, well, if they're into frozen yogurt, why not sell, normal ice cream too? And then why not sell some other dessert as well? And while they're at it, then why don't they sell, right? It's because they have to specialize. I mean, our market is made up of companies that simply specialize in an area, right? If they don't specialize in an area and you try to sell a little bit of everything, guess what? You're really not good at anything, right? Specialization is a real thing. If any of you guys remember back in your economics days learning about, you remember that book called The Wealth of Nations? Anybody read that? If you can think back to your economics 101, if you actually had to read that book, you might not have been in economics 101. It might have been a much further along economics class. But he was the economist that talked a lot about specialization. That's how the market is built and made more efficient. If the butcher tries to also be the baker and the builder and the financial banker all at the same time, and everybody tries to be everything to everyone, there's no efficiency in the market, right? So what does this mean for us? It just simply means this, guys. If you're starting an internet business, whether it's in the eBay space, whether it's in the website space or the content website space, you really need some kind of a niche. If you're not specializing, you're going to be struggling, okay? Now, how specific of a niche do you need? Well, we'll talk about that. But I at least want to create the urgency and the need right away for some kind of a niche. Are we all on the same page there? Okay. Yeah. Not everybody took economics, right, Kathy? Some of you, maybe business majors or finance people, we certainly did. Took my fair share of economics. But the point is, I think that's a principle we can all understand, right? Okay, so specialization is important. So what is a niche? We talked about that. Why have a niche? We need to talk about how to come up with the niche, and that was mostly the topic of what tonight's discussion was going to be on. Now, I want to take it into sections, okay? Because we have this three-prong approach when you get into our program, where we're trying to do an eBay business, an affiliate type business, and an e-commerce business, right? And that all wraps up into one. I want to talk about a niche really quick from an eBay perspective, okay? Let's discuss this just really briefly. We may talk about this more tomorrow in our eBay training, but suffice it to say for now, actually, hold on, let me just delete that. There we go. eBay for just a second. Do you need a niche on eBay? Let me ask you that right up front. And do we teach in our program that you have to have a niche on eBay? This is the one exception to the rule. at least at the very beginning. You'll notice that most of us will teach you that no, in fact, when you start eBay, we recommend you don't back yourself into a corner and have yourself a specific niche. Now, that might seem counterintuitive based on what we just discussed, but eBay is an interesting example and a little bit of an exception to the rule. I still think that when you start an eBay business for the first time, that it's difficult to go into it with a niche ready to go. Sometimes the best way to approach eBay is to list a little bit of everything, and we'll discover as we go along what our niche might be. But it's the one place that I think you can get away with having an eBay store that's got some jewelry, some pet supplies, some furniture, some home goods, some sporting goods, some eco-friendly products, so on and so forth, and still actually work out and make money. And that's just because eBay, from a marketing standpoint, it's very easy to market a wide range of products that way on eBay. Okay, so I'm going to say that's the one exception to the rule. Although in that exercise of listing and listing and listing and having lots of different industries you're using, I can almost guarantee that over time you will discover your own little niches or markets and sub-markets that will fit your business and that you'll do long term. But the idea is to start with a lot, because in that exercise you end up coming up with what you're going to do long term. Okay, so I'm going to say eBay, how to come up with a niche. I'm going to say in this example, we don't necessarily need one. Okay, so that's going to be the note I put. We don't have to have a niche. Okay. Okay. You guys clear on that? I don't want to spend too much time on eBay right now. I want to spend more time on the other ones. Okay. Let's talk about number 3 before we talk about number 2. Most of the time, I think most of you guys will start your eBay business, right? You'll start selling there, and then that will lead you to this one right here. So I really should have put number 3 as number 2, but oh well, just bear with me here. So an e-commerce website. This is where we create our own website on a platform that has a shopping cart where someone can find our website, buy something, add it to the shopping cart, right? And we make money off of that process. And then our supplier ships out the goods or whatever, or we ship it out ourselves if we're carrying the inventory. That's an e-commerce website, right? Do we need a niche here? And how do we come up with that niche? Yeah, this is a different example, right? You absolutely do. If you don't have a niche, and some of you guys are actually surprised by this when you come into it. You're thinking, well, when I build my site, I want to name it something very general and call it like, Trevor's Home Goods or Trevor's General Goods Store, right? Or the online superstore.com, and it's just this big general website that sells a little bit of everything. Well, guess what? If that's going to be your business model, you're going to have several problems. Number one, if you try to sell a little bit of everything, you're not going to be good at any one of those areas because you're going to spread yourself too thin. Remember, you're sometimes a 1 or a 2-man or 2-woman show, right? You don't have hundreds of employees like an Amazon has, or I guess thousands would be more accurate. But you can't. I mean, that's just almost impossible as a business model. You're not going to recreate an Amazon or a Walmart type business model. You're just not going to do it. It's just not feasible on a site like that. So take it from me right now, you need to specialize on your website. Now, how much do you need to specialize? That's the next question. Some of my clients, they'll get into a general market, okay? And this is going to be used out of no particular reason other than this is the example we're using. I'm going to say, for example, let's say like the home furnishings market, okay? Because this ends up being a good one because it's just large. Is the home furnishings market a niche? Well, it is, right? It's a larger niche, and we talked about earlier in this definition right here, a niche can just be a small market segment or even just a market segment. Okay, so you can say for sure that your niche is, the home furnishings market. But but ideally, it's not so general. Maybe even you focus on a sort of a micro niche within that. So maybe you're the home goods type market, but you're focusing on more trendy home furnishings, furniture, and decor. Okay. So maybe not like the old classic stuff, but more of the trendy stuff. Maybe that's your more specific niche. Okay. Or maybe you start out with a website that's about home furnishings, and maybe you start out with more of the trendy type product, but as you grow and as you bring on additional suppliers, then you start offering some of those other niches within your niche. Most of the time, as long as you're in one general area, I'm going to sign off on it. If you're in just the general area of jewelry, I'm going to sign off on that, or home furnishings, or pet supplies, or eco-friendly products, or whatever, right? Sporting goods. I'm going to sign off on it if it's in one of those general areas. Don't try to sell pet supplies and jewelry on the same site, because those two areas are just too big. Remember, we need to specialize, right? And you'll learn more about why this is, because when you get into the marketing phase of the program, it is extremely difficult to market one of these e-commerce websites if you're trying to be too big, you're trying to do too many things at once. So is it okay to be in the pet supply industry and start out by selling some maybe fish or aquarium type products and some dog products and some cat products? Sure, you can do that. As your business grows, maybe you bring on some additional lines, right? And then you can scale it up and get bigger and bigger. Remember, the perfect example of this that you guys can all understand is remember, there was one point in time when Amazon was what kind of store? What did they start out as originally? Yeah, they were your spot. They were your spot for books, right? They did books so well and built up such a great brand that they started to adopt additional markets. Now you can get anything off of Amazon. I'm not suggesting you take the same course, but I am to some extent, where you may start off in the pet industry, but then you start bringing in additional lines of pet products. Okay, maybe before when you started, you only carried dog beds and pet beds, or pet beds in general, and some bird cages, and that was kind of your micro niche. But then as you got a little bigger and you wanted to expand your market, you got into stuff for small reptiles, right? And stuff for fish. You wouldn't adopt on jewelry, right? Because that's silly. That's so outside of that area that you need to stay within your niche. If you wanted to get into the jewelry market, set up a separate website and do it again, and have your pet site and your jewelry site. But don't try to combine them. It just won't work. Okay. So I think we understand that pretty well. I want to look at how we decide, though, because that's always the big question. You guys now understand you need a niche, and especially you need a niche in this area. Let me give you what I think is the best way to decide what your niche should be if you're doing an e-commerce site. Okay? And I tell all of you guys the same thing. If you're looking at me like I have no idea what I should do my website on, there's a million things I could do my website on. Can I just suggest that if you're going to do a drop shipping website, that you start out not by saying, what do I want to sell, or what do I think is selling best? Because guess what? I think it's important that you have a niche that has the following, okay? You got to have a niche that, number one, has demand, right? And you might think to yourself, right? Because your product has to be something that people already want. We're not trying to create a new brand new marketplace, right? It's got to be something that people already want. But guess what? In the year 2016, on the internet, there's demand for virtually any type of these niches, sustainable demand for any type of these niches. and that's all you need. It's not even worth it anymore, and I'm going to make the same recommendation to most of you guys. I don't think it's worth it to even try to research the demand in these different niches, because guess what? There's plenty. I'll just answer the question for you and save you the hours upon hours. There's different tools and things you can look at. There's keyword tools that will help you understand demand. There's something called Google Trends that can help you understand demand. And we could go through a lot of those different tools and research and research and research. But I've mentioned this before in other trainings. I really believe there is something called analysis paralysis, right? Where you are so caught up in trying to figure out and analyze and create for yourself, or at least in your mind, the best possible niche that gives you the best chance of succeeding, that you don't make a decision for weeks and sometimes months. And I've had clients in that spot. And then guess what? A business never gets off the ground because they're too busy trying to research all the risk out of it. I can guarantee you any of your ideas are going to have enough of this. So don't worry about the demand part of it, okay? That's the first thing we've got to make sure we have in a niche. Now, here's the second thing. We got to look at usually the competition, right? But let me save you some time. A lot of you guys are looking for this, this golden niche where the demand is high and the competition is low. Does that exist right now on the internet? Can you really find something that has high demand and low competition? Not in the year 2016, right? I remember years ago when I first started getting into coaching and especially when I was starting some of my own stuff, that was a little more feasible because not every single pocket of the market was filled to the brim with competitors. Selling online was still slightly more novel than it is today, okay? Now, there's a chance, right, Ed, if you get something that's totally off the wall, a brand new type of product, that there might not be as much competition, but that's difficult to do. And I would recommend, rather than going with the risky, off-the-ball, faddish type product, that you stick with a more determined, a more proven market. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, I want to find the high demand, low competition, guess what? It doesn't exist anymore. You can't find that. There's ways you could run the numbers again, and I could give you some tools and some analysis you could run on competitors and Google rankings. But can I just save you the time once again and the headache and just tell you right now that there are competitors in all of the spaces that you're going to want to get into. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, right? Because guess what, guys? If there's competitors in the space, what's that indicative of? Right? If I'm looking to open up another pizza joint in the middle of New York City, but there's already 15 on the block that I want to open it up on, what's that indicative of? Yeah, people are already spending money in it, right? Competition is not a bad thing. In fact, I would argue the opposite. If there's a lot of competition in your space, I would say, well, good for you, because guess what? That means there's money to be made. And that means if you can carve out a unique little niche within that space and you are effective in your marketing, that you can make some money there. The idea of finding no or little competition is silly, especially on the internet in 2016. So don't let that bother you. I've seen some of you guys Google search in your niche. Since we're using pet products as an example tonight, let's just use that. They go out and they look up, dog beds in Google, and they find Sears and PetSmart and all these big companies up on the front page of Google, and they think, how am I ever going to compete? I'm telling you, you can. The internet is what levels the playing field for a small business. Competition is not a bad thing. Okay, so we like that. We like that part of it. Here's the last step here in an e-commerce website. Are there suppliers? And this is what I want to recommend that you really actually spend your time on. If it's a foregone conclusion that there's demand in your space and that there is competition, great. then you know what? Really what you should be looking at are there suppliers that you can start off with in your space? Because guess what? In the e-commerce space, if you're looking to start a drop shipping type website, and I think most of you guys on your very first website are looking to start one of those kind of sites, right? I mean, I'm looking at people that I've worked with here, and most of you guys say, yep, that's the kind of site I want. I want a drop shipping site. I don't want to carry my own inventory. Well, guess what? If demand is good, which it is, and there's already competitors, so we don't need to research it, the only last question we should have in our mind is there a drop shipper out there that I can use? So my advice here with what we're looking at, if you're trying to decide on your niche for this spot right here, it's number 3 here that matters. Are there suppliers? So start your hunt that way. It doesn't do you any good to brainstorm ideas, to check demand, to check competitors, to do all this analysis, to come to find out that guess what? You can't find a drop shipper for that specific type of product. I'll give you a pretty good example of this. I had a client once years ago who wanted to do a company that sold everything for like a gaming room. Okay, so like dartboards, billiards, right? A pool table, that type of stuff, which is a cool niche if you think about it, right? A gaming site where you go to this site, it's a one-stop shop for anything for your gaming room. I loved it. I thought it was a great niche. Okay, so did we spend time researching if it had enough demand? No, because there was demand. We don't need to spend our time looking at that. Is there competitors? Oh yeah, there's competitors. Save yourself the time. There's sustainable demand and there's competition. So what should be the big question in our mind? Is there a supplier for those types of products? And we went out there looking and looking and looking, and we couldn't find anything that would legitimately wholesale drop ship that kind of stuff. So what did we do? For the time being, we just X'd it out. And we said, okay, let's get into a different market. Because there's some industries, and we've talked about this before in other trainings, where you can't find a wholesale drop shipper. They're not in every industry. And if that's one of those industries, then save yourself the time. Establish whether or not there's suppliers first, and then decide if you want to go with it. Okay? That should be your approach. So I hope I made myself clear there. That was the biggest point I wanted to get across when you're doing number 3, an e-commerce site. Look at what's available for drop shipping and make your decision based on that. Don't think to come up with ideas and analyze those ideas and then go hunt for the drop shippers, because often you're going to be disappointed because there may not be a ton out there. Okay? Wait, does that make sense, guys? Are we pretty clear on that? Now let me address this thought, Russell. I think this is an interesting one. Russell says it should be centered around something you've got some passion for on a personal level, so you can stay committed long term. Do you guys agree with that or not? So the question is, do you have to have some passion for your product? I'm going to go with saying this. Is it essential? I'm going to say no, it's not essential. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people who are in industries that they never used or bought the product themselves, which seems crazy, right? They just found a good supplier and made it work. You don't have to be passionate or love it, but I will say that's a huge bonus if you do, because it makes the longevity of the company and the learning about the company and marketing easier. So I would start with that as if you've got a big list of suppliers that you're looking at trying to decide what to do. Start with the ones that you're interested in or that you kind of like or you've got some passion for, and look at those first. And if you can't work out anything there, then maybe go to some others. Okay? I think that's a really good point. I definitely don't think you have to be passionate about it. But if you're doing an affiliate website, I absolutely agree. And that was the point you just made, Russell. If you're doing number 2, your passion should be your number one concern. Whereas on number 3, it's something you should consider, but it shouldn't be necessarily the driving force. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? Are we clear on that? Okay, so let me give you a scenario here. Let's say you don't have any huge passions, and there are some of you that are like this. That you're like, I'm like, okay, so what are your hobbies? And you're like, well, I don't know. I don't have any real serious hobbies. Well, what do you love? What are you passionate about? Well, I don't know. I like a lot of things. So it's hard to start with a passion. So what's interesting? I've actually had some of my clients do this before. I want to give you these, at least this address to start. It's called randomamazonproduct.com. Okay? randomamazonproduct.com. Let me show you what this looks like. Okay. If you go to this site and you click on this little button right here, get new product. See the button I'm talking about there at the bottom? This one. Okay. Get new product. That will randomly bring up a new Amazon product. And this has helped a few of my clients that had no idea what they want to do. I tell you, go to random Amazon product and just keep clicking that button. And whenever something that comes up is interesting to you, write it down. So far we've had like a foot in or a shoe insole. This is like a book or a movie. That we won't look at. Tanning lotion, right? Some sort of a MacBook charger. A weight loss product. Okay, so as we're going through this, right, and you're clicking that button over and over again, I promise you'll get some ideas of things that you might think are interesting. Okay? Get new product. Maybe watches, maybe unique women's watches. Boom, write it down. Okay? You can come up with a list of things this way if you really need to brainstorm and come up with them. Maybe baseball products, right? Maybe that's just your niche, only baseball products. But yet again, if this looks interesting to you, you have to look at what's available from a supplier standpoint, because if you love this idea and you want to sell baseballs and other baseball products, if there's no suppliers, well, you're stuck, right? I will say this, there are always suppliers out there that you could use because the products come from somewhere, but they're not always available for dropship, right? That's the problem. Okay. So that's a random Amazon product. The other one that's good for brainstorming, and I won't belabor this one. This is amazon.com/best-sellers/ZGBS. This is their bestseller list. I think sometimes it pays to just go down through these categories here on the left-hand side of the screen. You see them right there. You could click on any of these right here and kind of look through the products and get an idea for bestsellers and what's trendy right now. Now that leads me to one other question before we leave this topic real quick. Does it have to be something that's trendy and extremely popular? And the answer is no. And really, you don't want something that's trendy because trends come and go. If you're going to build out one of these websites, you might as well make sure that you're in a proven staple type market instead of setting up a site selling Tickle Me Elmos. You guys remember that craze years ago? If you would have done that and thought that you were going to have some kind of sustainable business around that, you would have been wrong, because those went out of style as quick as they came into style, right? But this is a good way to kind of come up with some ideas and brainstorm, all right? Okay, so since we're running short on time, let's make this last one quick. If you're doing, let's see. Let me scroll back here. If you're doing number 2, okay, this one right here requires what we were talking about earlier. This requires your passion first. So an affiliate site is different than what we've been talking about so far, right? An eBay site or an eBay business is built around just listing products for sale. An e-commerce site is built around the same thing, only you have to choose a niche for it. You don't need to be passionate about the products you're selling. You just need to sell them. you'll get passionate about them as they're paying you, right? But if you're going to do an informational site, which is what we'd call an affiliate website, where basically you're writing and creating a site that just delivers content, and that's a lot of what we've been talking about in these Thursday trainings lately. An affiliate website is driven by you providing free information on this website covering a topic in detail, right? And then you're going to advertise and you're going to do Google AdSense and put up links and affiliate ads, and you're going to make money off of that by getting people to the site and having them click and see those ads. I promise you, if you're the sole creator of this content at the start, and most of you are, you will struggle at this if you're not passionate about your topic, because you're going to be researching it in tremendous detail. You're going to be learning about it every single day. And if you don't like it or can't stand it, then you're in the wrong spot. So this is the one area where you need to sit down and actually think about what you're interested in before you choose your niche for your website. Okay. And I put this here. This is maybe just to help you guys think, those of you who don't think you have things that you're passionate about. This is a Wikipedia page, and I'll go back to the link here in just a second. But it's a list of casual hobbies. Okay? See all of these right here? You can't tell me, after going through this giant list of casual hobbies, indoor, outdoor, competitive hobbies, observation type hobbies, so on and so forth, that you couldn't find 4 or 5 things here that you like. You can. I certainly did when I did this exercise. And so I would challenge you to use this. If you're struggling to figure out what your niche is going to be for your affiliate site, start here. Because yet again, I would argue the point that we talked about earlier, that there is enough sustainable demand in your niche, whatever your idea is here for your affiliate site. There's a ton of demand for people who are just simply searching for information. So I don't think that should be the driver. I don't think your competition should be your driver. When doing affiliate marketing, it has to be what you're passionate about. So make a list, brainstorm, use this list to help you out. Here's the link for it right here. We'll circle that so you can make a note. If you want to look through this to help you make that decision, that would be great. Wikipedia.org/wiki/list_of_hobbies. All right. Okay. Last, and then we'll be done. I know I've sort of gone on and on and on about this. Last thing is just a couple of considerations I want you to make. Okay. Seasonality and consumable goods, and this is more directed towards you who are trying to decide your niche on an e-commerce site. These are bonuses right here. Number one, if you have something that's very seasonal, let's say you're selling backpacks, and backpacks certainly have a season, don't they? If we checked Google Trends, which I've mentioned earlier, for backpacks, I'll bet we could see that they are seasonal. Let's just take a look real quick. Google.com/trends. And this is best if used with just a general keyword phrase. So if I'm going to click Explore Topics, I'm just going to do very general. I'll type in backpacks and do a search. And we'll see what kind of data comes up here. I use this to see if there's any seasonality. What do you guys think based on that graph right there? Seasonal or not seasonal? You see a pattern? I do. The peaks here are in August, 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 August. What's in August? It's back to school, right? So some of you guys are like, well, does that mean I'm starving the rest of the year? No. Look, you see the low part of the graph? It's not at 0. There's still searches that happen here in January, February, March, April. but you've got a peak up here. So yeah, you might be slower in these times, but you'll be higher here. And plus, you've got the December rush. Can you sell and do fine over time with a seasonal website? And the answer is, of course, you can. Just know that you may make more money in those months leading up to the school year, and you'll just have to make sure that you plan for the lower months. But there is demand for the other ones. So Google Trends is one that you can look at. You certainly can do a seasonal product. The other thing is consumable goods. That's a bonus in my mind. So if you're selling vitamins or supplements or women's makeup or fragrances or whatever, colognes, perfumes, those are consumable items, right? Which means that in theory, if you get a customer, you may have repeat business for a long time. Some of you have said, I don't want to do anything but something that's consumable, and that's fine, but I don't think it's the be all end all. There's plenty of people that do just fine selling furniture to customers that buy furniture once every few years, and there's enough demand for it that they don't have to sell to the same person twice to stay in business, okay? So I'm not going to say that's an essential part. That's just a nice little added bonus, all right? So after this discussion, guys, we'll finish up now. I want you to be able to walk away from this saying, okay, next time I choose a niche, if I'm working on eBay, I understand I don't necessarily have to have one, right? That's the first thing. If I'm doing an e-commerce website, I should know that demand is already going to be good enough, that there's already competitors, and I shouldn't be as worried about that. Rather, I should just start with what suppliers are available, right? That's the takeaway there. And then if you're working on a niche for affiliate marketing, it's got to be driven by something you're passionate about. If you guys can remember those things, then you'll probably stay away from the problem that too many of our clients have, and that's the analysis paralysis thing, getting stuck, trying to run the numbers. And I think some of you guys that are that way, I say that way like it's a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. It's just some of you guys are wanting to research the risk out of it, and there is no researching the risk out of it. So I'm just trying to save you the time now. And help you move forward a little bit quicker, okay? Because I know some of you guys get stuck on that. Okay, so that's it. I'm not going to go any further. Hopefully that helped you guys out. Good luck choosing your niches. If you're already working on one and moving forward with it, great. Hopefully this helps on your next one, and that's part of the point of this program. I mean, this isn't supposed to just stop at one site or one business. I mean, I would hope after going through all of this, that months or years down the line, when you're ready for your second site or your third site, that you don't need us, that you can do this analysis yourself and feel comfortable with what direction you're going with, okay? All right. Thanks for coming along, guys. I will see all of you hopefully next week. We'll do Thursday again, same time, same place.